Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, social media, sports, everything really. Depending on the guest, we talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis, and on social media, you know me as PD Beats. You will recognize my guest from Kim's Convenience, the sensation taking over Netflix. He plays Omar. We are with Ziad Ek. Ziad, welcome to Popternative.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped.
No, I'm really happy to have you and chatting with you. And we talked about it a little bit before we recorded. The reception since going on Netflix worldwide has just been insane, man.
Unreal. It's unreal. Yeah.
How has it been? So when did you kind of decide that you want to be a storyteller? I call you guys storytellers, actors, writers, musicians, right? I mean, where are you from originally, and give us your background, how you got into the acting.
Yeah. So I was born in Egypt, in Cairo. The whole family's Egyptian. We immigrated to Montreal when I was 2, and then I grew up in Montreal and then Ottawa and now Toronto. I think every kid has the same story about always wanting attention, and that's how they get into storytelling. But even more precisely, my parents both studied cinema, and so from a very young age, they were showing me all types of international movies, Egyptian, Italian, French, American, what have you. And so I always kind of grew up around that. And then I had an older brother, and he also did a little bit of theater. So of course I wanted to do as he did. And so that's kind of how it all started for me.
Absolutely. It's funny. We kind of have a similar path there because I'm originally from Montreal.
Yeah.
Now I live in Ottawa. And
Sweet.
Maybe one day I will go to Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everything's moving west anyway.
When were you in Ottawa, Ziad?
I did my high school in Ottawa, middle school and high school.
Nice.
What was that? 2008, 2014. Yeah.
Okay. And then you went to Toronto?
Then I did Toronto to do my BFA at Ryerson in acting, and been here ever since.
Very, very cool. Very cool. And Montreal, where in Montreal were you raised?
I was raised in NDG, but I was a kid, right? So I don't know anything about Montreal. Yeah.
I was from the West Island, Dollar des Ormeaux, DDO.
Yeah, my brother's best friend lived there. So.
Yeah. Remember Epic Mealtime, that YouTube?
Absolutely.
They were from DDO.
Yeah,
they were from
so cool.
2 streets down the road.
I definitely bought a T-shirt, an Epic Mealtime, bacon T-shirt or whatever.
They're one of it's funny how they were one of the first big YouTube channels.
Yeah, they were huge. I mean, it's unreal what they were doing. It's crazy. I can't.
It is crazy. Speaking of craziness, I mean, so I love having this conversation, especially with cast members of the show, because we both grew up in Canada. We grew up watching a lot of TV shows that were Canadian. I feel like the stigma of Canadian shows aren't that good, or Canadian shows won't get past the border, people won't watch them outside of Canada. That stigma is gone, especially in comedy with Kim's Convenience, Letterkenny, Schitt's Creek. It's great to see.
Yeah, I mean, it really should be gone because aside from let's call that the mainstream stuff that we have, obviously the 3 you mentioned, Letterkenny, Kim's, and Schitt's, which are pretty huge internationally. Even within Canada, there's so much being produced, web series on CBC Gem. CBC Gem really has a few gems that you can just binge.
No, it is crazy to see. And you could watch Netflix on CBC Gem or on you can watch Kim's Convenience on Netflix or CBC Gem. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, people don't. I mean, I get it because people tend to just have the main streamers nowadays. So we obviously get so many questions that are when's Kim's Convenience coming on Netflix Canada, even though it's already out in Canada for free.
I did an Instagram live with Paul 2 weeks ago, and to see, first of all, 3,000 people tuned in to hear us talk, which is insane to me. Like, isn't that like it? In and out, we had about 30,000 people, which is crazy to think.
Yeah.
But like the amount of people from all around the world that love Kim's Convenience that tuned in, like it was wild, Ziad.
I can't even really wrap my head around it truly because I'm still so new to the game.
Yeah.
But I see it even in my mentions on Twitter, on Instagram, the people that are the few people that find me on there, that are from all across America, from the UK, from Asia. Yeah, it's nuts.
No, it is crazy to see. One thing I kind of noticed, well, first of all, like Omar is a cool character. He's got a little bit of confidence. He's got a swagger to him. Bit of a smart aleck at times. You know what I mean? It must be fun to play that character.
Yeah, it's super fun because the original character breakdown that I got when I got the audition was that this guy, he could be a stoner or maybe not, and maybe he lives in his mom's basement and just kind of takes it easy. And it's really been great to see the progression that the character's been through from season 3 to 4, where he went from kind of being this new kid, to the show to now being, like you said, this like chill guy with some, some quips every now and then that's just happy to be there.
And it's funny because, yourself and your co-star, Kosia, who plays Stacy, Omar and Stacy are kind of like, there's a little bit of like a tag team, like Batman and Robin kind of angle there, I find.
Yeah. And she's definitely Batman, let me tell you that. Absolutely. Kosia she's a beast. Like, she's such a great like actress, and she's done so much with her character, past obviously with the great writing that she's received. Like, she's just so smart and so experienced. And again, like I'm being so new to this. I'm just happy to be here, and I think it's the same for the character of Omar too. It's we're really there's a lot of similarities between the two of us.
Take us through when, like, the moment when, whether you were on set or this was kind of when you saw it distributed on Netflix worldwide. Take us through the moment where you were like, "Wow, this show is special."
Well, okay, so it's funny. I my first kind of knowledge of Kim's Convenience was in Ottawa. I was studying theater, but in French. I didn't know anything about the English like stage. And so I looked up what the NAC had going on, and they had Kim's Convenience. I was like, okay, Kim's Convenience, what is this, right? I moved to Toronto the next year. Kim's Convenience is at Soul Pepper. The next year, there's a billboard. There's Kim's Convenience. Okay, great. 2 years later, I get the role. I'm like, all right, this is cool. Like, this show's pretty big. And then all of a sudden, I'm seeing my co-star Simu Liu get like a Marvel gig, and you know what I mean? Like, it's really hard to miss how big this show is. It's hard to also pinpoint one moment. I mean, I was just happy to see myself on TV.
Were you guys thinking about, I mean, like, a lot of things kind of come into mind when you find out about Simu. So, like, Simu's been on my show. I've interviewed Simu on Popternative. Did it kind of go through your, like, what went through your mind, like, when he told you, when you found out that he was going to be in Marvel? I mean, it's just like, it's crazy. Yeah,
it was dope because my last day of shooting, it was on a Friday, and Simu was like, over the weekend I got to go to New York and I'm doing a screen test. And that was my last day of shooting, and we planned to see each other a week later to all go out as a cast. So I wasn't going to see him whether he'd gotten the news or not. And then the next Friday comes, I walk into the green room, like they're finishing the last few scenes of the day. Simu goes, hey, guess where I'm going tomorrow? So I'm like, okay, Marvel shoots in Atlanta. Like, are you going to Atlanta? He's like, no, San Diego. Right away, I'm like, ding, ding, ding. They're introducing you at Comic-Con? He's like, yes, sir. It was nuts. I'm a huge, like, superhero fan. And so, like, it was just surreal. I was almost happier for me than for him. You know what I mean? Just the fact that I now know, like, a Marvel superhero, and I get to brag about it with my friends.
No, it's pretty cool. Yeah, we've definitely, obviously that was like before like that whole thing, so it was a Kim's Convenience interview, but we definitely have had, like, when there's all the Netflix like Marvel shows like Luke Cage and The Punisher. I've interviewed people from those shows. And I've interviewed people from like the Runaways, Marvel Runaways, and a bunch of other things. It's nuts to see how the Marvel brand is like, it's crazy. Like it's in its own little world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like the toughest part out of all this is that I'm a DC fan first and foremost. So
it's glad that I said Batman and Robin, right?
Yeah, I really am. Like I've got a few Batman tattoos. Like I've got a Spider-Man tattoo because that's a special place in my heart. But like for me to see all this Marvel stuff, like obviously I enjoy it as a fan of the genre, but there's always that little thing for me that I'm like, damn, they did it before us,
Yeah, no, it is insane. What I find really interesting, Ziad, about the Kim's Convenience world is there are two worlds. There's the world you're in with the handy car rental world, and then there's the convenience store world. And those two worlds, except there's some Shannon and some Kimchi sometimes go over to that world. You know what I mean? The convenience store world. Those worlds don't really intertwine at all.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about that? Because it's almost like there's two shows, so to speak.
Absolutely, and they did a really great job of at season 3. They really expanded that other world of Handy, and that's where characters like me and Akosia came in, and Jenny Raven, who plays Gwen, came in. And so I think we're seeing a shift in the way the show is being presented. Obviously, with Handy becoming such a huge part of it these last 2 seasons. Who knows what the future holds? Because, like you said, it really is like 2 shows. But I should stress this, despite it being 2 shows in that I don't get to interact on set, so like in scenes with Paul, for example, we still are all collectively like working together for like one common goal. And so to see Paul on set, the like backstage, and get to talk to Paul and have him welcome me home. My name's Paul. Like shakes my hand. Like that's something you don't get to see a lot of, definitely, in the industry, to my knowledge.
Well, I interviewed Sujif Verghese, who plays Mr. Mehta, and that was like kind of a really cool thing for me because he's actually like one of my favorite characters on the show. Like I love Mr. Mehta, man. That character's the best.
Mr. Mehta's back, baby.
Dude, isn't he awesome?
Yeah, he's great. I mean, and Susan obviously is super experienced. I've never had the chance to meet him, but that's the thing about a show being so like split, is that there's so many great characters and cast members that you don't get to actually like work with and meet. So it's really an expansive universe in a way.
For sure. Take us kind of through what do you think is next for Omar and the Handy crew? Like what are things that you want to see your character be involved with?
Well, man, there's so much. I'd love for Omar to get a little backstory, maybe get to see a peek in his family life. Maybe get to see if he has a girlfriend or something like that. I mean, I know this past season, spoiler alert, for those who haven't seen season 4, he flirts a little around, but it'd be nice to see him get a girlfriend. And then, down the line, I'd love to move to that'll be pretty sweet.
Absolutely. No, it's a crazy world. Well, Ziad, thank you so much for joining me on Popternative, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
No, absolutely. Where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
So my Instagram is ziad.ek, ziad.ek, and you can find me at Twitter at ziad_ek, ziad, ziad_ek.
Awesome. Well, seriously, congratulations for the success of the show, and I wish you all the best, and I hope you're doing well during this quarantine, man.
Thank you. Likewise.
No, absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. And until next time, this is Ziad Ek, a.k.a. Omar from Kim's Convenience, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.